Hi, everyone. So, just as a reminder, you will access the information about your courses that you will review as your triad through the uh, SharePoint page. If you need access to the rubrics, the proposal forms, etc., you need to be logged into Portal to access these, but there's some other folders to link you to places that you need to go to. And so if you see that there are, the different pages that you can click on, but for us, we're going to go under documents. So you can either click on the top to go to documents, or if you want, you can just click submit documents. It will take you to the same page and you'll see where your forms are. So your forms are going to be under your whatever your triad is supposed to review, whether it's oral communication, written communication, etc. And you'll find your documents that you need to review here.
Hi all. When it comes time for you to start your reviews for your course for first reading, once it's deemed that the forms have everything that they need to have, now it's time for us to start taking a look at the forms. And so our first thing is I'm going to take a quick look at the generic syllabus. You want to make sure that on the generic syllabus that the course description is there and it's clear and it seems to match the learning outcomes. The learning outcomes should be appropriate for the level of course. So you want to have lower level verbiage for courses that are 1000 level and then intermediate for 2 and 3000 level. So in the 2 and 3000 there should be some low and some mid level and maybe 1 or 2 high level verbs. For 3 and 4000, mostly 4000 level, you definitely want to have more high verbiage than the lower verbiage. So for example, things like identify are lower verbs. So students should be able to identify whatever it is that the course is about. But if you're talking about high levels, students might be able to propose a plan for doing whatever it is. So things that require a little bit more intensive understanding from the lower level to be used in the upper level is what those higher verbs. So a good example is using Bloom's taxonomy and looking at that verbiage from high to low. And I will put a little video, I'll put a little handout together or a link to a handout that you can utilize as well. There should be some SLOs if they're submitting for the right foundation that are in their course that are aligned with the right foundation. So it may already be SLOs that they've already had or tweaked or they may add them, but there should be SLOs in their learning outcomes that are aligned with the right foundation. The idea is that the course is not just going to have one single assignment that they claim to have covered the information for the right foundation. They should have some information embedded and threaded through the course, whether it's through the entire course or it's through parts of the course or little bits of the course. There's multiple program outcomes, objectives that need to be assessed through the course. And so having at least 1 or 2 SLOs should be appropriate. 2 is probably more likely for many courses. Now, they may already have SLOs that are addressing these, and that is fine. They may be their traditional SLOs. They don't need to come up with new ones, though you might not know that. So they do need to have generic enough information on the syllabus that anybody else could be using the syllabus. So we should not see specific dates and times. The form should look very much like this. There shouldn't be any faculty information. This is a generic form that any faculty should be able to just pick it up and then add as they need. Their textbook that could, or any other material that could be changed by the department as long as it's minor changes. Information about engaged learning, technology in the classroom, as long as this reads kind of reasonable. You would expect that the means of assessment should be relatively aligned to the learning outcomes. So you would expect lower level courses to maybe have some writing exams, maybe minor projects, but not anything like they're going to do senior major projects if you're talking about lower level courses. But you should be seeing some correlation. They can have ranges in their numbers for their assessment. Typically about 3 assessments or more are appropriate for a course. These generic areas should just be there. There should be nothing detailed. And then they need to have a suggestion, of course. So they should have the weeks. They should have topics, maybe assignments if they want to list the assignments there, but not very specific information with those details. On the course form and how you would look at this up, I typically and on the form, the course form, you see the turned in print off document. I have to blur this information field. Remember the content information or any said here is the person if applicable to be presented here. Same. You need to have things should be look at and the form as should have a question about the we've clearly what it is. So for this is a course English and just so found it is that changing the course assignment the line their those are your assignment their implement explain in opposite form should have written by one to try. They'll be all including signatures, program, so all of arts or business, etc. Sometimes if it is never try to review this in part as time adjust, but it is advised that we focus in January. If their course date, if they should stated that to link, if number is changed, title should also be followed. The should prereq, so they should have some appropriate to talk about have description of the revised. If there's anything description change date such making any tweak up to create the revisions comes that they base them. But if there's they just if this and they need undercurrent do it because curriculum reviews is under state what a foundation for that any education like any major is required major and a couple of our dealers etc or only needs it is there. If this occurs in to say implement where all 20 is first should be written in advice teaching like any the core number should be department can definitely at minimize person to be major anything like sources who may like the new program should be financial the description is similar they should all submitted and their faculty that should there submit there especially there's not a chair case about the fact together typically doing the he comes in one result another those type we do or that if you that of course are they should and of course there exists much mostly just the general education that they're impacting typically it's not impacting other things but they should state what is going to happen here any expenditure that they may need. If this is a pre-existing course, this is typically already enveloped into other things, so that's probably not changing. Here they do need to specify what outcome they want, and that's a drop-down window. They just fill that in. Describe how they're addressing that outcome. This should be very clear. It's usually not one sentence. It's usually very clear how they're addressing each of those outcomes, so they just need to discuss that. They need to list their learning outcomes, mark which ones align with the general education, and how it aligns with the rubric for the general education, suggested assignments and activities. So that should be clear that they should be specifying what it is that they're looking for. So just writing something like test is not appropriate, but maybe something like test question that evaluates students' ability to identify how the change in food affects the flavor or something like that. And how that should be very clear how it's going to relate to the SLOs. So they can be concise, but one or two words like test, paper, that's not necessarily appropriate in this case. They should attach the generic syllabus. And then when if you review and everything's okay and you don't have any more changes, that you can contact the faculty who submitted it and make minor changes if you think that's appropriate. If it's just very minor things, there needs to be signatures on here that you check, but then we go to the review. So the general education for you guys, it would be the first reading when it was submitted, um, the date that the committee reviewed it, the lead reviewer on there. Did you approve it with no changes? Did you approve it, but there are some minor changes that need to be done before the final second reading? Or did you return it because there are major changes and they need to kind of start again? And if that's the case, then they need to submit all over again. If they need to be returned, who is it returned to? And whoever filled out that section, they need to print, sign, and date it. Once that's done and we go through second reading, as long as that's appropriate, I will complete this part of the form, me meaning Deborah Bromfield Lee, and then send it over to general education. This part of the form should have already been completed before that. It should be kind of, as long as it was approved on the curriculum side, this part should be pretty much the same for general education for first reading. And once it's complete, from the curriculum committee, it goes for second reading for general ed, and they'll complete. So Holly will complete that section.
What do we do next? So once you're done, you go back to the right foundation submission page, and what you will need to do is go to either submit documents or the document page at the top. The link, it might be in the three ellipse dots that are on the top if your screen is not large enough. Then you're going to go from there, select the courses that you've either approved on first reading or have major revisions, minor revisions, whatever it is, you're going to take those and you're going to copy them over. Now, if you worked with a faculty member to make some minor corrections, just make those minor corrections and just move them over. So then you will move them over so go to documents and you'll move them over to whichever form you need to fill, whichever place if it's approved, you'd move it over into approve. I'm not going to move anything now because we don't have anything to move right now, but you would move it, just click move here into whichever folder. Then the chair of your triad, what they're going to do is they're going to fill out the proposed status form and have that information sent over to, like, emailed out to the appropriate person. So if I wanted to copy those over, I would do that. Now, if everything is done and ready for curriculum to look at on second reading, whether it's fully approved or there's some minor maybe typos or a few things that just need to be changed but can be changed before curriculum can do second reading. If it's major changes, it has to be submitted all over again. But if it's minor changes, what we're going to do, like I'm doing here, I'm going to take those forms and I am going to copy them over, not move them. Don't move them at this point. We're not going to move them because that will delete them. So I don't want to delete them. I'm going to click on the button to go to copy them, and I'm going to copy them over into our curriculum. Now, you may have a link to two different curriculum things. We're moving everything over to the provost office page. So this one looks like curriculum, but with some Frank Lloyd Wright architecture. You're going to go to File Submission, and you're going to click 2014 and you're just going to copy them here. I will take over from here where I'll make our agenda. I will do a quick look through, make sure everything's okay, and I will put everything together there. At that point in time, after we do our second reading, if it's fully approved, I will do all the communication to the faculty member who submitted it. So the whoever is the chair will submit a some information that it was approved on first reading if it was, if there's minor changes, if there's major changes, you will make those. There will be some generic templates for you to send out so you don't have to make these up. So those will be put together and ready for when we have to do this. But you're going to copy over the file into the curriculum folder. So I will also have just a link directly to the curriculum folder that you can just move things over into. Thank you, everybody. And let me know if you have any questions or any concerns. I will try to help you as best as we can. If you need help moving anything or doing anything, I am here to help.